Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nedling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Nedling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am very excited to bring to you Jeremy Shapiro, and let me tell you about Jeremy. He is a serial entrepreneur with a focus on software as a service, SaaS, for those of you that are technology-minded, and information marketing. In his role as a mentor and coach to entrepreneurs, Jeremy has helped small business owners make the transition from solopreneur to business owner, an important distinction that many entrepreneurs can easily miss when working in their business instead of on their business. Since 1998, Jeremy has been helping entrepreneurs discover the core strengths in themselves and their business and realize their true potential, combining passion and expertise to grow their business and attain the freedom they deserve. Through structured masterminding, one-on-one coaching, and consulting work, Jeremy is able to uncover hidden opportunities within individual businesses that provide the maximum profit to the business owner. Jeremy is interviewed extensively by the media for his expert opinions on the real estate market and business, and has been interviewed and featured on, there's a few here, so NPR Morning Edition, the Boston Business Journal, Fox News, ABC, NBC, PBS, and the Boston Globe, New England Cable News, the Australian, California Biz Journal, Market Watch, and even interviewed by Tokyo Kazaya, the Business Week of Japan. So when not helping other entrepreneurs take their business to the next level, you'll find Jeremy traveling the world with his family, soaking up language and culture like a sponge, climbing mountains, cycling unreasonably long distances for fun, running, or playing in the kitchen. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about starting or finding a mastermind group. Please join me in welcoming my guest, Jeremy Shapiro. Jeremy,
thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
It is wonderful to have you, and it is a topic that, as we were discussing earlier, when I first started, even though I had 40 years in the corporate world and been exposed to franchisees and whatnot, I still sought out mastermind groups. I think that having a coach and these mastermind groups is just a wonderful way to really stay focused, continue your education, your learning, and have a support group, which we all need as you're on that solopreneur island, for sure. So we're going to start with two easy questions I always start with. And the first is to share with everybody, where do you call home? Where do you live right now? I know for some people that's a tough question, but right now.
Those used to have different answers. I'm originally from the East Coast in the Boston area. It's why I talk fast. So for those of you listening, if I'm talking too fast, keep up. And we moved to California, though, about 20 years ago. And for a while, there was that sort of, torn answer to where are you from. But at this point, I don't know. I feel like 2 decades in, at this point, I say, the Bay Area, California, Silicon Valley, the heart of most every website and service and thing you use is home right here in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, same way with, I lived now here in Georgia longer than I lived in Pittsburgh, so I call this home.
There it is.
So the next question is, I gave a whole lot of, I guess, description of the business side of your journey, but there's more to it than just that. There has to be some spark, some aha moment that says, you know what, I'm not going to do the corporate world. I'm not going to do the academic world. This is what I'm going to do. So what was that, and why do you do what you do?
Yeah, I'm thankful to have never been part of the corporate world. I certainly did dabble in like the high school part-time job situation, and entrepreneurship is really my calling. Ever since I was a really little kid, I'd always been enjoying business, and that really kicked off in earnest during my high school years, which is going back now 25 plus years. And when I say a real business, I meant like a business with multiple clients, with products and services, right? And starting to build out a team. And entrepreneurship has provided what I call entrepreneurial freedom. And when our listeners are thinking about entrepreneurial freedom, the first thing that usually comes to mind is this idea of like financial freedom. And like, yeah, that is a piece of it, but really what entrepreneurial freedom is, it's your freedom of choice. It's optionality. It's choosing how you spend your time, what projects you work on, what clients you work with. It's having the ability to turn down work that you don't think is a good fit for you, or you don't want to do, or a client you don't like working with, right? It's the freedom to spend your time with your family, pursuing your hobbies, with your church, your community, your nonprofits, the things that, fulfill you in other ways. It's you being able to choose what you do with your time here on this earth. Because at the end of the day, we've all got the same destination, but what we do between now and then, it sure would be nice to have a little more say in.
Yeah. And you know what I find too is that when you do what you love, when you have that entrepreneurial freedom, then you do seem to have more time for church, for family, for friends, because you're not so burned out.
Yeah. Well, you're
by
doing work
that
that's in
job.
alignment that you're passionate and excited about and that you want to be doing.
Yeah.
For me, all of my businesses, and there have been many over the years, have all been in the service of entrepreneurs. So beyond just having been an entrepreneur myself my entire career, all of those businesses are also supporting entrepreneurs. So I'm surrounded by people on that journey and helping people move from solopreneur to true business owner to getting towards entrepreneurial freedom is so fulfilling and exciting. Interviewing and talking to folks who've made it to the other end and have found entrepreneurial freedom and sharing their stories with the world is so empowering. And having mastermind groups of entrepreneurs on that path to share the wins, the challenges, the questions with each other and have that peer advisory is just so powerful and impactful.
And I think it's really important because, there are some people that I have had the pleasure of interviewing that their parents were entrepreneurs and there was a history of entrepreneur mindset. But a lot of the people that are coming into being entrepreneurs don't have that. Their family, their friends don't understand, what the heck are you doing? What
So
do you
true.
mean you're going and leaving this cushy job you have to pursue something that you think you love? And
Well,
and
it's funny
that's where
when you say it like that, it touches on this really interesting phenomenon that entrepreneurs go through, especially as you're transitioning from like a job to going out and being one of those weird select few who wants to start their own business, right? And then actually getting
yeah,
it done. The social circles can change, and you will often find as an entrepreneur that it's lonely at the top.
yeah,
The people in your social life, the people you typically hang out with, usually don't quite understand what it is you do or how you're successful at doing it or what the challenges are that you're really facing. So when you get to hang out with like-minded entrepreneurs, they have been where you are, they understand what you're going through, they can share with you in the successes and the big wins because they get what it took to get there. And they can
yeah.
help you through the challenges that you probably haven't faced before, especially if it's your first business.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too, is that you need that support group. You need to have people that have been there or are going through it so that you can know that it's not just you against the world kind of thing.
So true.
Where did the concept of mastermind come from, and how is it being misused today?
Oh, goodness. So if we go back to the 30s, Napoleon Hill in 1938 published his most well-known book, Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
He published a ton of great books, but that's sort of one of the ones he's most well known for. And in Think and Grow Rich, there's chapter 10 is called The Power of the Mastermind, right? And so this is where this concept gets introduced. It's something that he found when hanging out with the titans of industry and seeing their success. And the idea is when you put together two or more people or minds in the same place, working in harmony towards a common cause, you get this creation of this third mind or this mastermind that is the culmination and combination of everyone who's there. So for our listeners, if you think for a moment about when you've tried to puzzle through a problem or a challenge on your own, or brainstorm a new idea, and compare that with when you're working through a challenge or thinking of a new idea with other people, right? When you have someone to bounce ideas off, around the room with, you suddenly get those incremental improvements, right? You're spitballing ideas around, you're improving upon what someone else said. They then riff on what you've got. And what comes out is something far greater than either of you could have come up with on your own. It's only what comes up because there's more than one mind working together. So
I used to have a boss that says whenever the project team was together and he'd say, "We're one brain," and we're all looking at him like, "What?" But that's what he was really trying to tell us.
Yeah. When you do put your heads together, you get that, that superpower of that's not accessible to individuals. It's not an additive problem solving. It's much bigger. So the way we use masterminds nowadays, and they can be misused, I'm glad you asked about that, is at the Bay Area Mastermind, for example, we get together like-minded, growth-focused business owners and entrepreneurs once a day for a full day of working on the business. Not in the business, but working on the business. And we do this once a month. And that provides us this good cadence of members having time to implement their accountability action items between meetings that can actually move the business forward, right? And get them unblocked. And then come back and stay up to date on accountability, share the new challenges, the new wins, what's working and what's not. What I find so interesting is that we all have an idea of the things that we're really good at, right? That our core competencies, our superpowers. When people come into the room, there's things they can share their expertise on, no problem. In their sleep, they're just experts at it, whether it's marketing, hiring, sales funnels, whatever it is. When people come and test drive a mastermind with us and join us for a day, just to see if the group's a good fit for them or not, they also have an idea of the big challenge, the thing that's keeping them up at night. The thing that if you got an answer to, you feel like would unblock you and you could move forward, right? So we now have two categories. One is the things you know. And the second category is the things you know that you don't know. Now, when you know you don't know something, what do? You can ask questions. You can Google things online. You can read a book. You can talk to a coach, right? All those are good at solving a problem you know about. But the biggest opportunities and pivots and changes and new product launches and so on I've seen that come out of the group again and again actually come from a third hidden category. And that's the things we don't know that we don't know. So how do you get exposure to ideas and challenges and resources that you didn't even know to look for? Well, when you surround yourself with like-minded individuals who are growth focused and want to build their business, they're all out there doing things in their own business every day and sharing with the community of like-minded entrepreneurs what's working, what's not, and where they need help. And so that's where you get this exposure to these ideas for how you can grow your business, for new sales channels you didn't know existed, for resources that can help you over certain bumps you have in the business. And so that's where we see such incredible power in the mastermind, is finding out about what you don't know. And that's hard to find anywhere else.
Yeah, it's you sometimes whenever you go to meetings and people will say, "Well, does anybody have any questions?" And there are probably 50 things that are going around in your mind, but you're not really sure if it's something you should ask at that time. So you don't ask until somebody else in the group asks, and you think, "Oh gosh, that was what I was thinking."
So much so. I'll share with you a quick story. And this is just one of many examples that I love seeing in the room, right? You have an e-commerce business owner who's sharing how they're using email marketing in their business. And they show the numbers and the stats and the providers that they send an email out, revenue comes in, they talk about their earnings per click, they talk about their open rates and their click-through rates and all these things, right? That's the world they live in. They're really good at it. Across the table, you have a retail store business owner. They've got a storefront and their customers walk in their front door and buy things in person, right? And that business owner is sharing how they're using direct mail and they're buying lists and sending out mailings, and new customers in the neighborhood are coming into the store who never heard of it before, and they're getting new business by using direct mail. These are two very, very different sales channels that those two business owners didn't know much about. And so when you're thinking with your blinders on, how do I grow my email marketing and build my e-commerce? You're not exactly thinking about direct mail, nor would you even know where to start. And that retail store owner is looking at how to get more people in the front door and is not at all thinking about the email marketing side.
Right.
So you have these two business owners sharing their resources, where they buy lists, what they use for an email service provider, what metrics to look at, what kinds of direct mail pieces to send out, what works well in email promotions, and on and on. And they're sharing this openly because there's no competition between these business owners. They're just on that same journey, but going about their journey in a different way.
Yeah.
And what do you know, that next month at the following month meeting, the retail store owner had put in place email marketing and sent emails and got new revenue from a new sales channel that they never had before. And the online e-commerce business owner had found a list broker, bought a list, worked with a designer and a writer and a mail house and got a direct mail piece out and brought in new customers into the e-commerce business. And both are growing because of that shared knowledge that got transferred in the room from the things they didn't know about and would never have known to ask about. And I love those kinds of stories.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I do what I do is I bring on guests who may or may not be someone that you are looking for. But as you listen to it and are having this involvement in this engaging conversation we're having, it's like, oh, maybe I should try that. I never thought. And that's why I love this. It's just the opportunity to, while you're, on the treadmill or, taking a walk with your dog, you're learning something that may be the next thing to help your business.
Have you ever had this experience where you reread a book, maybe for the second, third, 12th time, and you find yourself saying, wait a minute, like, who snuck in here in the middle of the night, put this new chapter in the book that wasn't there before, right? And you've read it a dozen times, but it wasn't what you needed at that moment.
Yeah.
And now that you're reading it through, you're at some different point in your life and your business and whatever. And you've now read this chapter, which actually has meaning and can tie into whatever challenge you're facing and has the answers you needed all along, but you just weren't ready for those answers then because you weren't facing that challenge then. So when you're in that room of like-minded individuals, you're getting that exposure to other people's successes, wins, challenges, and breakthroughs. And that can really catapult you forward in a wonderful way.
So what are some other tactical ways that we can grow our business in this market that we have today?
Yeah, so for sure, if you look outside your industry, you're going to find other businesses and other business models that you can learn from. We had an attorney in one of our groups who had a traditional law practice, successful. And that attorney was looking at a business model from a subscription-based business, a company that had recurring revenue. And so the idea started to formulate. And what happened is through this cross-pollination of ideas, that law firm was able to put in a recurring revenue component into the business that now meant there was predictable revenue and they weren't going out and having to ask customers for new business or find new customers. There was a built-in revenue model to the business. And if you just got together a bunch of attorneys in a room, all doing the same thing, having the same conversations, you're going to find more of the same. But when you look outside your industry, you're able to take a different business model and actually put it in place within your industry where others aren't doing that. So, from a growth standpoint, look at additional channels that other businesses are using that maybe you're not using, right? So for example, if you're doing a lot of pay-per-click advertising, right, you can look at, direct mail. If you're primarily an email marketer, right? You can be looking at what you can be doing from social media advertising and so on.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think one mistake a lot of business owners make is they expect there's going to be this one silver bullet that makes or breaks the business, the one sales channel that makes the business win.
Not the
The
case.
reality is, for most every business, there are multiple sales channels that perform differently, but they bring in unique customers that are unique to that channel or don't exist elsewhere. So if you're tracking your numbers, which we're all doing, right?
Yeah.
If you're tracking your numbers and you can even break it down by lead source, you can start to see how well each of your channels are performing. Once you know that, the solution isn't get rid of the worst performing channels. The idea is to optimize those individual channels so they can get better against themselves.
Yeah.
Because the truth is they're unique channels. The customers you'll get from Facebook ads versus Google ads versus direct mail versus affiliate offers and so on are all different,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you have two different audiences you're advertising to, they're going to perform differently, and that's okay. Just know where they are so you can spot if they get worse, and so you can make conscious changes to improve them incrementally with small experiments.
So what advice would you give to a business out there that was going great and then now they've stalled and they want to know, how can I bring back some life into my business?
Yeah. So as an entrepreneur, it can be really lonely at the top, right? And when you feel stuck, who do you talk to about that?
Yeah.
Right? So when things stall out, usually those friends we were talking about earlier that have those regular 9-to-5 jobs don't have a whole lot they can do to help you out with that. They're used to having a job no matter how the business is doing until they don't have a job because the business didn't do well. Right? That's sort of the regular job world. Right? Do you talk to your spouse about this? Do you talk to, your social circles? Do you talk to your employees? Do you talk to your vendors? Right? All of these different parties have some sort of skin in the game, right? There's when you do well or don't, that impacts them in different ways. So it can be hard to have those honest conversations. So surround yourself with like-minded individuals who want nothing but the best for you, right? That's where you can openly share the real challenges going on in your business and the real wins, right? So that's one thing that's really valuable, especially if you're stuck, is surround yourself with those individuals, right? We talked about looking outside your industry and how that can help you get unstuck. And the third thing I want to share with you along those lines is this idea of how growth usually happens on what we call an S-curve, right? We're all used to the hockey stick curve concept. Things are kind of flat, it picks up and then it shoots off. Well, does anyone talk about what's at the top of that hockey stick curve? As that gets towards the top, it typically levels off, and it can drop down for sure. But as it gets towards that top, it starts to level, and you have this S shape.
Oh, right.
Now, the top of that S shape is a plateau. But is the plateau necessarily the top? Well, if you're feeling stuck, it might feel like it's the top, right? Especially if it starts to dip back down. So our goal as business owners is to stack these S's. So as you're hitting the plateau on one kind of growth in the business, you're already on that on-ramp and taking off on your next. So next thing you know, you have up, 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 right? So this might come in the form of a new product, right? Launching a new product can help you there. This might come in the form of going to a new audience, right? Who you've not marketed to before. This might come in any number of different forms, right? But the point is, if you're seeing a plateau in one area and you feel like you can't affect change, what other irons are in the fire? What else can you mix up to get there? And so, I can share a resource later where we deep dive in this more. But one thing I talk about is, Jeremy's FAQs to profit, right?
Yeah,
There's
my next question.
like 3 levers you can adjust in the business. And you're probably, as a business owner, focus on one of these. Well, if you change up to a different lever, you might find one lever is less stuck. So the FAQs, F is your frequency of transactions, right? So this might be like, for example, having a subscription program. That now increases how often somebody buys from you, right? There's a ton of other ways you can change the frequency, but that's a common one. The second one is amount, or the dollar amount of the transaction. And there's a ton of ways you can change this. One obvious one is increase your prices. Next thing you know, all your sales numbers go up, right? Another is the classic McDonald's, and would you like fries with that?
Yeah.
We call those upsells or add-ons. There are
Right.
probably other things you can be adding to your transaction, so your transaction dollar amount increases when someone transacts with you.
Right.
And again, we have a ton more ways we can impact the actual dollar amount of a transaction. And the last one is where most people spend their time. The Q is for quantity. And this is the quantity of transactions that you have. So this is where your marketing and your sales and your referrals and affiliates and all those things plays in. That's just putting more customers in the top of the funnel into the business. But really adjusting any one of those three levers, and there's a lot of ways you can move those levers, dramatically impacts the business.
Yeah. Yeah, you could see that. And, a lot of times that's where doing the business analysis of your year is going to help you, because you'll see, oh, this is the best time for me to do maybe the quantity, or this is the best time for me to do my price piece, upsell, whatever.
Yep.
So I can't believe time's almost flown by. What do most business owners get wrong with their funnels, and how can they fix their leaky business funnels? And for anyone that might not really understand funnels, if you just talk about that just briefly so they understand that.
So typically when people think of funnels, they think of the most commonly talked about funnel in the business, which is your lead generation funnel, right? You have somebody who sees your ad or your search engine listing, they click onto your website, maybe they opt in, maybe they then purchase something from you, and so on. And so each one of those steps is a step in your funnel, right? We also have sales funnels, but we also have hiring funnels, onboarding funnels, career ascension funnels. They're everywhere in our business, right? Anywhere that you have a linear process that someone moves through, just flip that and you have a funnel where there's steps that they're going down within your funnel. And typically what happens is not everyone makes it to the next step in your funnel.
Yeah.
Right? They wash out of the funnel at some point, and that's okay. In fact, if you're seeing 100% conversion between two steps in your funnel, that's actually indicative of a different problem, right? But typically what you'll see is, and I'll make these numbers up for example here, you'll have 1,000 people see your ad, which is an impression, right? 50 of them click on your ad and get to your website. Of the 50 who click, 10 of those opt in, of which 5 of them buy, of which 1 of them buys your upsell, and so on. And so you see your numbers get smaller as we go down the funnel. That's okay. We want that. So what most folks get wrong with the funnels in their business is, one, not knowing what their funnel steps are.
Right.
Right. And actually, I have a free workshop. I'll share the resource with you afterwards for our listeners, where we dive into this way deeper than we can here. But we'll go through examples of these and different ways you can approach identifying your funnel steps. Okay. So one is know what those funnel steps are. Two is actually start tracking the numbers centrally in one place. And honestly, this can be a stupid spreadsheet. You don't need fancy tools or complex things. You can just use a free Google sheet. And have a free Google sheet for our listeners if you want. Copy it, modify it, use it how you like, right? You can use it for your business. It's a template. Now, once we know the steps and we're tracking our raw numbers, like we shared in the example for each one of those steps, then we can do some really simple math, and we can look at our conversion for each one of the steps in our funnel. So this might be how many people submit a job application, and then we look at how many are actually qualified, like they meet the qualifications, to how many make it to a first interview, make it to a second, make it to an on-site, pass the reference check, and so on.
Orientation.
Yeah, all these steps, yeah. This could be how many people come on for your entry-level role that make it up to the next level of that role, and so on. Whatever it is, you're just looking at each of those steps. Then we can look at the conversion rate. Your conversion rate is simply looking at what percent makes it through. So if you have 100 people who opt in and 40 of them buy, that's 40 divided by 100 is 40%. Okay, so we know what your funnel steps are. You're actually tracking these numbers in your business, and you're now looking at the conversion. Great. Now we have a baseline.
Yeah.
Now we can start to experiment and change one thing at a time in your funnel to see what allows you to improve those numbers. You have a baseline. So what you're asking is, does this change get me a better number, no difference, or a worse number? and then we can do something with that. So for example, let's say you're looking at your landing page and it has a really low conversion rate. So you decide what you're going to do is you're going to move the opt-in form to the top of the page. You're going to make the button bigger and you're going to put a video next to it, right? You rearrange your page. You now test, does my new page perform better or worse than the previous? And maybe you now see you've gone from 1% to a 2% opt-in rate. Amazing. Good job, right?
But you
Now
don't
we
know
look
why.
at, do we change the headline? Do we add in asking for a phone number versus not? Do we make the button green versus blue? Any of these little individual changes you can then look at, does this improve or make worse these numbers, right? And once you do that, you can apply this throughout your funnel. And there's an iterative process we can apply to look at the worst performing part of your funnel and improve just that. And step by step, methodically, we can improve your funnels, whatever that funnel is in your business.
Oh, fantastic. So as a rapid fire question real quick, what are some most common, maybe the top 3 mistakes that founders or new solopreneurs are making when they try to scale their business? You know, they had success and now they're trying to scale.
Yeah, very often for solopreneurs who are looking to grow, the challenge lies with systems and people to run those systems.
Yeah.
Right? So one is document what it is you're doing so that it's a repeatable process and you actually have a good system. 2 is then hire team members who can use that system on your behalf and get the same result. This allows you as the business owner to do less in the business, do more work on the business, and move towards that entrepreneurial freedom. The less hours your business needs and the more you're making, the more you're effectively, making per hour, right? But also the less dependent the business is on you. And oftentimes the mistakes we hear from founders is this idea that they're a magical snowflake unicorn. No one can do things like they do as the business owner.
As good as me.
Right? Which maybe that's true, but good luck scaling a business with that mindset, right? So get over that mindset. And then 2 is this fear that if someone sees how you run the business and sees the system, they'll just go off and start the competitor to you. So, those can be sort of those big blocks solopreneurs have that don't let them create the system and then hire for someone to do the system.
And I think too, in having that system documented, if you will, allows when you hire people to set expectations.
Yes.
So then whenever it comes time to review how they did, then it's not a, oh, what? Kind of situation where you may lose that person because they didn't understand what you wanted them to do and now they're out. And a lot of, not just solopreneurs, but a lot of business managers are terrible delegators because they have that mindset that nobody can do it like me.
There's a big difference though between delegation and abdication. And a lot of smaller business owners think they're delegating when really what they're doing is abdicating. And the difference is when you delegate, you hand someone a system and or a defined definition of success so they can know if they're meeting it or not. Abdication is you just throw a problem at someone over the fence and think, well, not my problem anymore. They'll deal with it, which happens a lot, right? So here are 3 things when you don't get the outcome you expected from someone on your team. If you give a person a system, right, it's going to go in one of 3 different ways, right? One, the one we expect and want is that the person does a good job, they meet your definition of success and all is well.
Yeah.
Right? Great. We love that. What often happens though is the definition of success isn't met. And so then the question was, did the person follow the system, but the system needs to be corrected because you didn't clarify something important to you that wasn't part of the system, right? That's an us problem as the business owner. We revise the system. Or was it a person problem? Meaning they just didn't follow the system, didn't understand it, didn't follow the training and so on, right? And both of these are fixable.
Right. Very good. All right. It is time now for me to share my screen with contact information for Jeremy. If you have enjoyed this conversation, think, oh my goodness, I have to talk more with Jeremy. so that he can get me on the right road, or at least give me some good advice. So I'm going to share my screen. If you're just listening, go quick, grab a paper and pencil to get the website information. But everything will be on my YouTube channel, so please subscribe, as well as my findyourleadershipconfidence.com website. So the website is bayareamastermind.com. Again, bayareamastermind.com. Facebook is Bay Area Mastermind, initial caps there, Bay Area Mastermind. LinkedIn is his name, Jeremy Shapiro, and that's Shapiro for Shapiro. And Instagram is Bay Area Mastermind. Made it pretty easy for y'all. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy to talk about his call to action and what you can find on that website, as well as where he spends the most time for the social media.
Yeah, so if you head over to bayareamastermind.com, a lot of the stuff that I write about, these interviews with successful entrepreneurs who found entrepreneurial freedom, you'll find that at bayareamastermind.com. Awesome. Our fast funnel fixes for the most common problems you're going to find in your funnels in your business. I have tons on that, workshops on the marketing funnels in your business, tracking the stats for your funnels, how to fix it, the free worksheet I was talking about, all that stuff is at bayareamastermind.com. And of course, if you're curious what a mastermind group is like, or you want to try one out for a day, we have our Mastermind Test Drive program. That lets you actually apply for, and if it's a good fit, invest in a 1 day with us to see if a mastermind is a fit for you and if you're a fit for the mastermind. And if so, then that's how we find the right people for the room.
Awesome. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for giving some great stories as well as excellent advice for the folks out there. And I do hope that they will take advantage of going and visiting, just check out the free test drive of that mastermind group, especially if you're not in one. But even if you're in one, as I said before, I have 3 of them going on, and it's just different perspectives always make a better decision. All right. So as always, just thank you so much for being excellent guests today. And I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Nettling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nettling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.